पीयूष अहमदाबाद गए हो क्या? अब आया क्या?
अहमदाबाद आ तो रहा है।
मैं मुंबई हूँ।
ये मुंबई है?
हाँ। ये किसकी आवाज आई? लाइव हो गया तुम्हारा? हाँ। हेलो हेलो टेस्ट, हेलो टेस्ट 1 2 3, हेलो हेलो चेक, हेलो 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 टेस्ट, हेलो टेस्ट, हेलो हेलो।
हाँ अजीत है। तुम लोग साले इधर दे इधर। हाँ कौन है अहमदाबाद?
नया बंदा आ रहा
हेलो
है
अहमदाबाद। अहमदाबाद में कौन है?
अहमदाबाद में ये जो सर है,
क्या नाम है इनका?
जोश सर है, जोश।
अरे जो सर, आपका कैमरा ठीक कर लीजिए।
Manage with the remote actually.
अहमदाबाद से कैमरा जूम आउट कीजिए। ठीक है। आवाज आ रही है तेरे को उसमें?
आ रहे हैं।
आ गया ना वीडियो?
कैडी क्लियर है?
वॉइस क्लियर है?
हरीश क्लियर है वॉइस सर की?
अरे वेबकास्ट में पूछ रहा हूँ पीयूष, वेबकास्ट देख रहा है तू?
वेबकास्ट का
नीचे बहुत मुश्किल हो रही है। 1 घंटे की तो बात है। 1 घंटे का बहुत भारी है। तो टेलीविजन बैच के रिजल्ट एग्जामिनेशन प्रिपरेशन क्या हो जाए कैमरा ठीक करके यार है।
ठीक है पीयूष।
Hello, 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 test, hello, test, hello, test.
A very good afternoon to all of you. The entire admin team, HR team, DSA team, and the admin team of the UPS, and the people from Delhi Corporate Office and other places, and the faculty of College of Legal Studies. I welcome you all on behalf of the UPS in this interaction session with Mr. Amit Sevak. In fact, we were worried about the when the Lowry were taken over, what was the objectives, what are the policies and programs. Now, there's a good chance to really interact from the horse's mouth and understand what are the objectives, policies and programs, and I can also understand really what is the purpose and function of this big organization. On my own behalf, I request all of you to please get up for Sarti Bandhana. Sit down, please. Now request Dr. Shri Hari, Vice Chancellor UPS, to come forward and introduce Mr. Amit Sevak.
Thank you, Dr. Tabrez. I want all our Delhi office, Bombay office and Ahmedabad office to raise their hands just to confirm that you can hear me. Looks like Bombay office can't hear us. Yeah, you can. What about Ahmedabad? Perhaps they've put us on mute. Oh, okay. Thank you. Delhi, they all raised. Friends, both in Dehradun, Delhi, Ahmedabad and Bombay, it's a great opportunity to have Amit with us. I think I will have to repeat some of the jokes which I cut in the morning. He's the second Amit visiting Dehradun. His namesake has already done that on Sunday. Everybody is aware of. I'm talking about Amit Shah, who is the president of the ruling party. Amit, we are in India, so we must talk of first religion, then caste and subcaste. And fortunately, Amit's religion is education, which is common to all of us. And his caste happens to be he's been an academician in his first avatar. He's done teaching, research, etc., etc. And I'm going to the subcaste level. His area is economics and sociology, so even that matches particularly with this group. So I think this is going to be a good marriage, Amit. Amit, to top all this, is also a Harvard graduate, so I think it would be very interesting to hear him talk about various things which he has already planned for us. Amit's work experience has been all over the world. He has done wonders in Mexico, repeat in Malaysia, and he's now today trying to do the toughest job, that is to change Indians in India. Having said that, I guess Amit is here, and he's here for good. He's here for good, and he's here for good of everything that is going to happen. So Amit, without further ado, let me invite you. We are all waiting, both Dehradun, Delhi and Ahmedabad and Bombay. I'm sorry in case I missed anybody else. Please, we are all ears.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shriyari, and thank you, Dr. Tabrez, for the intro as well. Should I be standing right here? Can they see me? Can you guys see me over there in Bombay, Ahmedabad, Delhi?
Just raise your hand.
No, maybe they can't see.
Stand over there.
I can stand over here. Okay. Stand up here? Up here? Okay.
They can see you.
All right, good. So I first and foremost want to thank Dr. Srihari and Dr. Tabrez for the opening remarks. I appreciate the kind words. I'm really happy to be here to have a chance to speak with the faculty here. This includes our faculty in management as well as in law.
This is only law.
This is only law today. Ah, perfect. Okay, good. So I can be legally focused. And then we also have connected here, for those of you that are just stepping in, it looks like the offices of Delhi, of Ahmedabad, and Bombay. Is that right? Great. So good to connect with you virtually as well, to the offices virtually. Let me start by just recognizing that we're in the Vivekananda Auditorium, and this is a auspicious location from a personal sense. Vivekananda was, as many of you know, a very important figure in Indian history and also in the understanding of Indian culture in the United States. Swami Vivekananda came to the United States, came to Chicago, in fact, in September of 1893. And when he came, he had an important speech that he gave to the Parliament of World Religions. So as many of you who may have followed Vivekananda's life may know, Vivekananda had given a very important speech at that point. And this was a speech that was the introduction of Indian culture, of Indian religion, and of modern philosophy, of Indian modern philosophy. So that speech in September of 1893, more than 100 years ago, actually paved the way for a much broader understanding of Indian culture in America. So before then there was a certain mindset about what is India, and after that it was a much more open and much more broader mindset. So what I'm encouraged and delighted is that we're here in the Vivekananda Auditorium to talk a little bit about the same type of topics, about internationality, about exposure to new ideas, about openness and acceptance. So those are some of the concepts that we'll be talking about here today. Let me grab the clicker, and I'm going to do my best to stand in one place so that the group that's connected digitally can see me, but I don't know if it's genetic or sociology or biology, but I like to walk around when I'm speaking, so I'm going to try to stay in one place as much as I can and come back here. But for those of you virtually, hopefully you can follow along. I understand the team virtually can see the slides, right? Okay. So they can see the slides. Okay, great. So I may not need to physically be back here the whole time. Great. So let's get started. I am really delighted to be here today. Thanks to each of you for taking some time out of your busy schedules to be with us. Hopefully this will be an opportunity to engage and have some dialogue. This is intended to be interactive, so I'll be speaking for most of the session, but at the end I would really invite you to ask questions, yeah? Give comments, ask questions. This is the law group, so I'm expecting some debate, some discussion, some disagreement, right? This is the faculty of law, right? Isn't that the expectation that you have for your students to really engage and debate and ask some good questions? So I'm going to invite you to consider to do the same. Yeah? You guys ready? All right, let's get started. So we're going to talk today about, and by the way, what's the purpose of today? The purpose of this session is really to just give you an update about what's happening at Laureate globally. So it's just to give you a little bit of a perspective of what is Laureate and what's going on at Laureate. So we're calling today a Laureate Town Hall meeting, right? So a Laureate Town Hall meeting is just an opportunity to exchange some ideas, to get a vision, to get a perspective, because the university has recently become a member of the network. This is also an opportunity to become more familiar and more associated with it. Our hope is that we can do these Laureate Town Hall meetings here at the university on a regular basis, so that we have the opportunity to learn a little bit about and share a little bit about what Laureate's doing, but also for you to ask questions and comment and give feedback, so we can also share that perspective with the Laureate community. Okay, so that's the purpose of today, is to have an interchange and for us to share and also listen and talk a little bit about Laureate and the collaboration with UPES. So with that, let me get started. There we go. Great. This clicker may or may not be. There we go. Okay, there we go. We're just turning on the clicker. And with that, okay, I'm going to now start, the group that's digitally connected can see the slides, right? Yeah, so if there's any comments, I'll let you know, right? Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started for the group here. We're covering today a little bit of an overview of Laureate. So let me just start with just a little bit of context. Laureate was founded in 1999. So it was founded in the last century. It was founded in 1999, and from 99 to 2006, we're calling it nowadays Laureate 1.0. That was the first phase of Laureate. That was the first period. What happened during this period? Several things occurred. The first is that Laureate incorporated an institution called the University of Europe in Spain. So UEM, University of Europe, Madrid. That was the first institution of Laureate globally. And that happened in 1999. So the first institution of Laureate happened in Europe. Then, over time, Laureate was able to start to focus on institutions in Latin America, an institution in Mexico called the University of the Valley of Mexico, UVM, came on board. Then there was an institution in Chile, an institution in Peru, and slowly, during this first period, Laureate became a network for mainly Latin American institutions, Spanish-speaking institutions. Yeah. So the beginning of Laureate was mainly in Latin America, and Latin-speaking countries, Spanish-speaking countries. So it was Spain, Mexico, Chile, Peru. Eventually, the Portuguese-speaking country of Brazil became part of the group, and then it started to really expand. So during this period, Laureate grew from a really zero in 1999 to have approximately about $1 billion of revenue and approximately about 200,000 students. So roughly 200,000 students during this period. Then in 2.0 started, which we call roughly around 2007. From 2007 to 2014 is the next 7 years, in which we're calling Laureate 2.0, the second phase of Laureate. From that period, Laureate expanded outside of Latin America and started focusing on Europe, Asia, and also a little bit in the Middle East and Africa. From 2007 to 2014, Laureate grew from about 200,000 students to 1 million students, almost 1 million students. So it was a very, very rapid growth period. The expansion took place in Asia. 2008 is when Laureate entered Malaysia, which was the first country in Asia that Laureate became a part of. In 2008, an institution called INTI University became part of Laureate. Then Stanford, a university in Thailand, became a part of Laureate. Then a Hunan International University in China became a part of Laureate. Then we had, of course, Pearl and UPES became a part of Laureate in 2012 and 2014, respectively. We had other institutions in Asia become part of Laureate during this period. So this is the period of rapid growth. From 2007 to 2014, Laureate grew to 1 million students, and the revenue was approximately $5 billion of revenue. Yeah? So by the end of this period, by the end of last year, Laureate has become one of the top 3 largest education organizations in the world. Laureate rivals Pearson Learning. Many of you are familiar with Pearson, right? Pearson is the large UK-based publishing house that has now gone into education. So our engineering staff and IT staff do quite a bit of work with Pearson materials, right? We also have Apollo, which is an American online and technology-focused education company, and then Laureate. So Laureate today is one of the 3 largest education organizations in the world, and in terms of higher education, we're the largest. So Laureate today is the largest higher education because we only focus on higher education. We don't do tuition centers, we don't do K-12 education, we're not really in other fields like publishing, we're just in managing and operating colleges and universities. Okay? So Laureate today is 1 million students in 30 countries, 75 institutions, right? And a total of almost $5 billion in revenue. So those are some of the key statistics. If somebody asks you about Laureate, that'll be helpful for you to know, right? So let me just repeat them just to make sure we've all kind of got it. Laureate has 1 million students, 30 countries. India is, of course, one of the main countries, but we're in 30 countries, 75 institutions, right? And approximately $5 billion in US dollars in revenue, in turnover. Okay? So that's a little bit about Laureate's past. I just wanted to get everyone up to speed, especially some of you may be hearing about this for the first time. So what's 3.0? Laureate 3.0 was really introduced at the end of 2014, so it's really a few months old, right? It's really the last 5-6 months that we started talking about 3.0. And we're using the language here for good. Here for good is what Laureate is about. That's the slogan. That's the way we're describing what Laureate is. And this is an important transformation that we're now going through. This is a transformation from a way that Laureate operated in 2.0 to how we would like to now operate in 3.0. So I'll be sharing a little bit about this transformation and its implications. The point of the transformation is that Laureate has had a lot of success in terms of growth, in enrollment, in countries, so forth. But we want to now change the focus from many of these so-called operational or financial metrics. We want to now balance and focus more on academic and learning areas. So there's a shift that's happening across Laureate to balance between a growth-focused organization that's focusing on enrollment and financial and operating metrics to one that's also focusing on education outcomes, student learning, student experience, and we'll talk more about that. As we do that, we believe that Laureate will no longer just be focused on different phases, but will start to have an inflection point and will really become an institution that was no longer just following a sequence, but it's really meant to fundamentally redirect the organization, fundamentally change how we operate today. So let me walk you through what Here for Good is. Here for Good. Here for Good is the overall way that we describe what Laureate stands for. Here for Good has two components to it. One has to do with permanence, and the other has to do with purpose. Permanence and purpose. Now, I'm going to ask you to reflect on this and just ask for a few comments here. What does Here for Good mean to you when you think of the phrase Here for Good? And I used to be a professor, so if I don't get interaction, I'm going to cold call. So I just want to anticipate any surprise folks. What does Here for Good mean?
So in that sir.
Yeah. What does Here for Good mean? The word Here for Good. When you think of Here for Good, you want to comment? Here for Good? What does that mean? You going to think about it?
Something growth, you can say.
Something growth-oriented? Yeah. So Here for Good, so doing something good for growth. Any comments on Here for Good? Yeah.
This place is for good.
Yeah. That this place is for good? Yes.
That is for to do some productive work in academics and to cherish a good values.
To share good values.
For what purpose you are here?
Yes.
For what purpose you are here?
So what purpose are you here? It's to clarify your purpose.
For a meaningful purpose.
To have a meaningful purpose. Excellent. Good. Other comments? What does it mean to be here for good? Here for good.
Adding value to the institution.
Excellent. Adding value. Comments?
Transformation.
Transformation, transforming lives, transforming a country. We're the nation builders university, right? Transforming the nation. Some more comments. I have the kind of looks from you like your students have when you ask them a cold call question. Please don't call me. Please don't call me.
For the development of all.
For the development of all? To be all-encompassing? Good. Any other comments?
For some betterment.
Betterment. Betterment. Good. Comments?
Good society.
To having a good society. Good. Good. So there's a lot of ways to think about what Here for Good is, right? Here for Good is intended to have this positive spirit. So thank you for the participants on this side. I'm going to get this side. Don't worry. We'll find a way. So permanence and purpose is one way to think about it, because there's so many ways you can describe Here for Good. So I would like to invite you to consider that the definition that we're proposing today is an organization that is striving to balance permanence and purpose. Here for good means I'm here for good, right? It means I'm stable, I'm strong, long, durable, long-lasting, right? It's intended to be permanent. It's to have a longer term, to be financially healthy, right? To be stable in that regard, but to be organizationally. Reputation is strong, to be successful, to be well recognized. A lot of things have to do with permanence, right? You can imagine institutions that have been around for decades and decades, or even hundreds of years, if you think about institutions in many parts of the world. Permanence has that sense of longevity to it, right? Purpose. The word purpose that we just talked about, that many of the inputs from our colleagues had mentioned, has to do with social purpose, having a meaning that is beyond myself, right? It's to have impact. It's to change lives, transformation. So a purpose is something broader, more meaningful, more enduring. So it's to have a objective that Laureate is here for good. to do good, to be good, right? So purpose is something that's much more aspiring, it's much more social in value, yeah? So the concept here of here for good, and what we wanted to introduce today, was just this concept of purpose and permanence, that these are the two elements, the yin and the yang, right? The left and the right of what we're trying to accomplish here today. Here for good, if we're going to have an organization that's here for good, that's here to be permanent but here to have purpose, we need a balance, right? The word balance is super important. In law, we have that concept of balance, right? In the image of the old image of law as the balance, right, between the different ways of weights. So if you're looking at balance here, we're thinking about students in the middle, and you're balancing different stakeholders. So at UPES, at the university, we are very committed to the employers. We want to make sure we deliver graduates that have good skills so that they get good jobs and have meaningful careers in those employers. Community is very important, right? With the recent tragedy that happened in Nepal, right, with the earthquake last week, the university has started mobilizing to start to give donations, right? We care about the community. They might be in a different country, but they're connected to us. And in fact, many people here even felt the tremors, right, of the earthquake that happened last week, especially those that were building the new construction of the new campus in Kandoli, right, where the future law block will be. So community, having a sense of community. Another stakeholder is clearly the government, right? Both the government here locally in Uttarakhand, but also the government at the UGC in Delhi. We have that obligation, right, that responsibility to serve the needs of the regulatory staff. Faculty and staff is clearly, right? We need to be clear, to communicate, to identify areas that we can grow, right, to look for career opportunities, training and staff development, all of those sorts of things are important. And then clearly shareholders, right, the investors, those that are a part of what makes it possible for us to fund new campuses like we're doing out in Kandoli, or the refurbishment here in Bidoli, or other investments that we're making in Delhi and in other locations. And as we expand the university, the shareholders will be very important, right, that we continually align with them. So as we look at balancing the needs of stakeholders, another key part of Here for Good has to do with balancing. That we cannot just be focused on the needs of the shareholders, right? Or just the needs of one group of people. We have to balance across all of these. And the most important stakeholder here is the students, right? The students are at the center. So in the laureate language, this concept of balance and this concept of student-centric is a theme that we talk about quite a bit. And again, the university, we know that, right? Because at UPES, that's how we operate, right? We're constantly looking for opportunities to strengthen skills, to reinforce employability, etc., for our students. Another key language terminology in the Here for Good world has to do with shared value. So you'll hear this term shared value, which has to do with really balancing the growth focus, this focus on growth, with this focus on social and economic development, right? And so this is the constant balance. And as Srihari mentioned, I come as a sociology and economics major, and so that was my undergraduate field, so I can relate to the social and economic piece as well as I can relate to the business side of this whole enterprise. And that's the whole point about balance, that we have a shared value, that we're really here to try to do good by all constituents, right? So this is the last comment here about Here for Good, and then I'll jump into the next area. But this is a checklist of what are the different elements of what Here for Good means. The good news is that UPES is doing a great job on so many of these areas that the university has already been doing things both to strengthen purpose and also strengthen permanence. And so, for example, the university is doing a great job on employability already. Fantastic results in terms of placement of our students, as we know, including in law. I heard some great statistics today. I had a wonderful opportunity to meet with several of the law students today, and they're doing phenomenally well with internships, with projects, and looking at great jobs and great futures. So there's a great track in employability across the university, including here in the law faculty, doing great on outcomes, some innovative new programs. We've got a campus master plan, which is the physical layout, the infrastructure of the institution. We're starting to move in a more proactive way and online through CCE. Love to talk about maybe thinking about the legal aspect of how do we take the Center for Continuing Education to the next level in terms of legal education for working attorneys out there. And we're doing a lot of activities in accreditation, certainly in the business side and in engineering. But then there's these other areas that we would like to strengthen at the university as part of this Here for Good roadmap, such as more advisory boards and more engagement with our advisory boards, more active government relations program, more formal CSR, corporate social responsibility, so that we can establish clear external linkages. Okay? So that's one aspect of Here for Good and some activities for us to take on. And then there's other activities. I know that Sachin and the team are working on looking at the financial viability by program so we can better understand, are we really meeting the needs there? Looking at innovation, constantly looking for new programs to innovate. We are targeting roughly 10 to 15% of new enrollments every year to be coming from new programs. At least 10 to 15%. That's a healthy sign for an organization that's continuously innovating with new programs. That's one example of innovation. There's many other examples there as well, like hybrid and blended learning, which we'll talk about. And then internationality is also clearly something important. Getting more faculty exchange opportunities, getting more student exchange opportunities, and so forth and so on. So these are just a couple of examples of what we're trying to do as Here for Good. All right? So that's just a quick summary of what Here for Good means. Here for Good is about purpose and permanence. Here for Good is about balancing various stakeholders. Here for Good is about shareholder value and shared value, excuse me. And Here for Good is also about the roadmap that I just showed. So that's a little bit of what Here for Good is about. Okay? Does that make sense? And we can talk some more during the Q&A session. I just have two more sections I want to briefly cover, and then we want to open up some time for discussion. Remember the other slide I pointed out is that Laureate is in its third phase. 1.0, 2.0, and now we're in 3.0. There are three guiding principles or operating principles of what Laureate 3.0 means. One is collaboration, number two is outcomes, and number three is innovation. So you're going to hear these terms a little bit more because we're looking in the third generation of Laureate to really strengthen us in all of these areas. So what does collaboration mean? I'm going to start with this side here. Collaboration. What does collaboration mean to you, sir?
Collaboration to grow the globalization of the countries.
Good. So collaborate with other countries. Collaboration.
Means coordinating with more than one country or people or different type of persons having different.
Perfect. Coordinating with others. It can be both in India but also with other countries. What does collaboration mean?
It is to as a teamwork.
Great. That's a great summary of it. Teamwork, right? Collaboration.
Networking.
Excellent. Working with networking as you interact and meet with other people. So again, collaboration is a concept that we all intuitively understand, right? It's about teamwork. It's about locally in India, but also internationally. And the more we collaborate, that strengthens us, right? We are, my friends, an institution here at the university with 75 other brothers and sisters out there. 75 other universities and institutions of higher education throughout the world. So the opportunity for us to connect with the other law faculties in Brazil, in Mexico, connecting with law faculties in many other parts of the world. We're about to launch a new law faculty in South Africa, the one we have in Australia. So as we evolve, we'll have more and more opportunities. Initially, we can start with maybe a few talks, maybe like this, connecting via video conference. But as we evolve, we can imagine exchange programs with these institutions, digital collaboration, where we get two groups of students working together on a project together from two different countries. So there's so many ways we can collaborate. It's almost endless, the possibilities. But the idea is that that's the direction. We want to increase collaboration within the Laureate network. Okay? Outcomes is clear. Outcomes is about employability, but it's also about lifelong skills. And I'd like to invite you to consider, what are the opportunities that we have to continue to strengthen our employability? UPS does a fantastic job of placing students in great jobs right after graduation. At the same time, outcomes which means the result of our teaching and learning, can also mean ensuring that we've really developed a strong foundation in basic core skills that can be called 21st century skills. What are the skills that are critical in the new world? In addition to the technical side of law, what other skills are out there that are important? I'm going to pick on our dean here, the head honcho. What other skills are important outside of the technical aspect of law that students need to be successful in the work world?
They should be having a good art of drafting the applications, plus art of communication, and then art of research. The three very important areas, and the three pillars for any law student to become successful in the market.
That's great. Excellent. So application, the ability to research on their own, and of course the communication skill. Other skills that students need outside of the technical field of law.
I think teamwork.
So collaboration skills, teamwork, yes?
More focus on their work area. If they are where they are working, they should focus on that.
To be able to prioritize, Rana?
I believe the skills of the 21st century in
Okay.
collaboration.
So collaboration, communication. So there's a variety of outcomes there. Do you see what I'm saying? That the word outcome doesn't just mean employability. It's not just about getting a job. It's also internalizing, allowing students to embody lifelong skills that can really transform their lives, not just for the first job, but for their career, for 30, 40, 50 years of work, right? So the opportunity right now is to rethink what does outcomes mean, and how do we really move from outcomes as a one-time event to outcomes as a multiple decade event, and what are the types of skills? There's a concept you'll hear more about called 21st century skills, the 4 C's. Let's see if I can remember them. Communication skills, critical thinking skills, collaboration skills, and character. Yeah? And so the concept is, what are the kinds of skills that will be important for enduring as we move forward? So that's what outcomes means. And then finally, innovation. I think everybody here recognizes this, that teaching and learning is fundamentally changing in the world, right? This is not just a US thing or a European thing. Everywhere you look, the way that teaching and learning is evolving is rapidly changing. Technology is becoming more and more a part of the lives of our students. And we have now students who spend a significant amount of their time on their mobile phones, right? On their devices at home, on their computers. They're doing everything or many things in the digital world, right? So the question is, how can we evolve and be innovative in delivering education in a hybrid, blended way to really make that possible? I want to be clear. This is not saying that we're focusing on 100% online education. This is not saying self-paced education. The teacher is absolutely essential and central to the teaching and learning process. The opportunity here is to engage with our students in rich and meaningful ways so that they get empowered and excited because they're spending so much of their time outside of the classroom in a digital world. We want to give a flavor and an example to give them engaging and learning and rich content. So this can involve inviting them to watch lectures. This can involve inviting them to be engaged in a learning management system like Blackboard. This can be involved in a whole host of other ways like gamification, like all kinds of different tools that allow them to apply their learning, and definitely do collaborative projects like the kind that Dr. Tabriz was mentioning. The more we do application in the digital space, the more our students will be prepared, because let's face it, my friends, in the next 10, 20 years, our students are living in a hybrid world. They're going to be living in a world where they research law, where they apply law, and that's way beyond email. That's way beyond checking Google. This involves collaboration in work teams digitally. This involves thinking about how they consume videos and produce videos. This involves how they are able to get collaboration on a difficult legal problem and have it resolved through virtual interactions with folks. We have to prepare our students for a digital and hybrid world. So that's what it means to be innovative, to be at the front edge of that. And that's what we want to be at Laureate. That's what we'd invite us to consider all of us want to be at the university. So these are the 3 concepts: collaboration, outcomes, and innovation. So these are the 3 pillars that, for me, my KPIs, and in coordination with UPES, in coordination with Dr. Sriari and the team, we want to invite as part of our own objectives to try to look for opportunities in our teaching and learning and in our administrative activities to drive collaboration inside and outside of India and our university, to drive a deeper thinking of outcomes and to derive the next level of innovation. Now the good news is the university already has the foundation here. The university here is a phenomenal institution that already has a great foundation in each of these areas. It's just taking it to the next level, and hopefully through the incorporation with Laureate, this can really be a great strength for the university and a great differentiator as we go out into the market and brand ourselves and build ourselves as really the top institution in our area. Yeah? So we've got a variety of communities of practice that we do to reinforce this. I won't spend a lot of time here, but just to highlight that we've got what we call 27 communities of practice, you can see there on the left, that help us organize. So this is basically communities of groups of people that are working together to help reinforce collaboration across countries. This is a quick example here of the different types of communities of practice. These are basically individuals across. For example, we can create a community of practice in law. And so you can have coordination across different law faculties across Laureate's institutions. So this is an example. Eventually it could be collaboration in international law, or collaboration in tax law, or collaboration in corporate law. You get the idea. Just as you collaborate internally, we can also start collaborating across the Laureate institution. And this will go slowly. It'll take time. You'll have to be persistent and patient. But over time, this is the kind of collaboration we're looking to create across the network. Okay? Very briefly, I want to introduce something that Dr. Shriyari and the team will be introducing more formally a little bit later, which is what we're calling Here for Good Plus. Here for Good with a plus at the back. This is taking Here for Good's concept of purpose and permanence and applying it to the academic world. Okay? So let's be a little bit more specific here. Here for Good is essentially a set of processes that's going to be designed to strengthening our academic curriculum. It's going to be applicable to all Laureate institutions. So all Laureate institutions will have to abide by high level of teaching and learning standards, built around the Laureate culture of openness, accountability, integrity, focusing on really enabling our heads and our leaders to have a series of dashboards and tools to help them make this possible. And we're going to be partnering with QS to make this come alive. QS is an external, independent rating agency that is one of the best in the world. Have you heard of QS? Have you heard of Times, the Times rankings? What is a business standard here in India? So, there's various rankings of universities that are out there. QS is one of the best in the world. It's one of the top 3 or 4. There's dozens of these. But QS is really one of the top independent rating systems for rating the quality of an institution. Okay, an academic institution, an education institution. So we already have of Laureate's 75 institutions, 15 institutions participating in this. This is a global standard and an independent rating system, and this is a real recognition, right? This is real recognition. When you get a rating from the institution, it really means something to students, to regulators, to prospects. And the goal here of this new methodology is to really be more accountable and more specific on the quality of our outcomes. Again, the University of Petroleum and Energy Studies already does this. This is taking it to the next level of accountability for our academics, to focus on communicating benchmarks so we can compare with our peers, to be inclusive, and to be improving rankings and reputation. So let me explain how this thing works. Here for Good, this is a lot of information. I won't go through all of it. But basically, the concept is there are 5 categories here of employability, learning experience, personal experience, access and outreach, and academic excellence. There are 5 categories that we as the University of Petroleum and Energy Studies will be measured upon. This is an internal Laureate system. Here for Good Plus is internal. This is not going to be shared with anybody outside of Laureate. This is internal to measure how are we doing on these areas. So for example, what percentage of our students are employed within 6 months of graduation? That will count for 40% of this rating system, right? What is the average salary 3 years after graduation? We can track that year over year. What is the internal evaluation average, the student satisfaction score? What's the amount that we've invested in scholarships? What's our government engagement plan? Do we have a government advisory board? So you get the idea. This is a measurement tool that's designed to help strengthen and assure good processes internally to really drive great engagement, particularly with our students and our key stakeholders. Okay? So this is the internal mechanism. And then the external mechanism is the QS rating. So what we're going to do is in 2016, we're going to start internally to organize ourselves around the Here for Good Plus methodology so that we are ready at some time in the near future to be accredited by QS. So you can see here there's a star rating system. So these are actual laureate institutions that have already gone through this process, mainly in Latin America, that have received a 1-star or a 2-star, a 3-star, 4, and 5. I had the opportunity to oversee the University of Technology in Mexico called Unitec, which just recently got a 3-star, which we're very proud of. 3 stars is a great score. This is an institution that's recognized, may have begun to attract international recognition, has reputable levels of research, and its graduates are attractive to employers. So this is a summary, but it has to go through that rigorous process of QS to be given a 3-star, right? And similarly, there's 4-star, which we have one laureate institution of the 15 so far, and then there are 5 stars, which are like the Cambridge and the Oxfords and the Princetons of the world, you know, and so forth and so on. So the idea here in summary is we are going to start with an internal evaluation process called Here for Good Plus, which is then going to evolve to an external independent evaluation by QS, and then we'll get a QS star on it. So it's something I'm excited about, I know Dr. Srihari is excited about, and Utpal and the team here, because this is a chance to really demonstrate what we've been doing for such a long time here at the university, delivering great outcomes, great experiences, and really now getting that kind of recognition both within Laureate, to the Here for Good Plus, and then externally within QS. Okay? So does this make sense? Yeah? Makes general sense here? So I'm just going to wrap up with a couple of very quick slides on just where we're going. Just two more slides here, and then we'll open it up for questions and comments. I want to just attract your attention here, draw your attention to the bottom right of this slide. This is showing what's happening in India overall. We've just finished talking about Laureate and Here for Good and Here for Good Plus. Let's not talk India. Let's talk about here and now. What's happening in India is a dramatic increase in the number of students that are enrolling in higher education institutions like UPES, right? In 2002, there were about 11 million people studying in some form of higher education, private institution or public institution, all across India, 11 million people. In 2013, just over 10 years later, that number has almost tripled to 30 million people. From 11 million to almost 30 million people are studying in higher education as of the end of 2013. And look at this. By 2020, a conservative estimate is there will be 42 million people studying in higher education in India. So we're going from 11 million to 30 million to 42 million students in higher education in India in just over 18 years, in our lifetimes, basically, and really not half of our lifetimes, right? So what I'm trying to say here is India is becoming the hotspot for higher education globally. There is no other country in the world that is going through the transformation in higher education that's happening here in this country right now. There are more and more people becoming part of higher education. There are more and more of them are preferring private education. In fact, 65%, Yudi, correct me if I'm wrong, of this is private education. So most of the education is private, like UPES, right? So what's happening in India is a very exciting, a very dynamic time, and we know this, we feel this. This is an exciting time to be in education in India, an exciting time to be at one of the high-quality institutions like UPES, and an exciting time as we look ahead. Because what gets me excited is the opportunity to really serve an enormous number of individuals across the country and to be here for good in India, right? Both in terms of the longevity of what we're trying to achieve, the permanence, but also that sense of purpose, having that social impact, that ability to transform the lives of thousands, tens of thousands, maybe one day hundreds of thousands of students through what we're doing here today. So that's the big picture. It's an enormous transformation here, and that's being driven by a lot of factors. This is the last slide I'd like to close with, which is just a simple summary of what does this all mean in terms of 2015 today for us as an India team. Up here on the page are 5 priorities that are the 2015 priorities for us. One is we want to continue to grow our enrollments, right? We want to continue to maintain that healthy flow of new students coming in. We're excited to see the number of students coming in law in this coming July, and we continue to be excited about the prospects of the LLB program and the master's programs and so forth. Innovation. What does HBO stand for, sir?
Gee, I don't know. Hybrid, blended, online maybe?
Great, thank you, Ashish. I had a ringer in the room. So HBO is hybrid, blended, and online, and it has to do with using technology more and more as a way to support our teaching and learning process. So that's a second big priority, to start to become more HBO-centric, which is the laureate term for this big effort to go hybrid, blended, or online, and we'll talk more about that later. Of course, quality continues to be very important. A big focus on student outcomes, thanks to Utbal and Srihari's drive. A big focus on accreditations, like we're doing in business and elsewhere. A big focus on program reviews, which we're focusing on increasingly with program reviews, thanks to Sachin and the team looking at program reviews in partnership with the deans. And finally, the Here for Good Plus methodology that I mentioned. Student experience is very important with NPS. And then finally, all of the activities we're doing around talent development, including the great Abhigat project, which I know is something we're all looking to do. So with that, I'm going to close with a short video, and then we can wrap up the session here. Let's see if we can get the video up. The video is from our founder, chairman, and CEO, Doug Becker, from Laureate, to talk a little bit about what does 3.0 mean. What does it mean to be part of Laureate today as part of 3.0?
So I had the chance to talk to so many people in Laureate around Laureate 3.0 and what we're doing. And I have to say, one of the biggest questions that I get from people is, how can I help? And I love that, because it shows me that's the spirit of Laureate. People really want our company to be what it can be, to live up to its potential, recognizing that this is much more than just a company. This is almost a movement, that we really are creating social mobility and lifting people into the middle classes and showing higher education how it can be more nimble and more focused on students and with better outcomes for society. So this is important work. So how can you help? You're helping right now by watching this video, by listening and educating yourself as to what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it, and making sure that you play a role. It's very easy in any organization to be comfortable with the way things have always been done in the past. For everyone, including me, I much prefer to not have to change the way I do things. But I recognize that if we keep doing what we're doing, we will not be able to scale. And I'm not even sure we can sustain our current size. So we have to embrace this change. And that's what you can do for us and for me, is embrace this and make sure that people understand that we can be true to the things that have always been important to us, in quality, in being local, in being committed to students, in being entrepreneurial. We can maintain all of those things, but we can change the way we do certain parts of the work. And I need you to be open to that. I need you to make sure that the other people that work for you or with you understand the importance of being open to this. You need to tell us when we're not communicating clearly, because this is a big, complicated transition and transformation for the company, and communications is critical to us. You need to ask questions if you don't understand how certain things are going to work or what's expected of you. And you need to give us the benefit of the doubt that this is a complicated project. We will make mistakes in the implementation, but we will get it right, and we will make it right. And you can be a big part of making that happen. So I thank you for your commitment to helping us make Laureate the best it can be, to live up to the potential of this incredible organization that you're such an important part of, and really to help me achieve my dream of having a company that's truly sustainable, that can last 100 years, and can be a source of opportunity for students in countries all over the world for generations to come. So thank you very much.
Great. So, AMQ. What does AMQ mean? Close. Good guess.
Answer my question.
Answer my questions. You sound like a teacher. So ask me questions, answer my questions. I actually like answering my questions. That's pretty good. We're very close, very close. Any more questions? Good. So this is a common laureate term called ask more questions. And any of those other interpretations I'm actually going to suggest to them they consider as well. But this is a common term about just the culture of laureate, right? It's a culture that's very open, very transparent, that's encouraging a lot of dialogue. And I'm with a bunch of legal experts and attorneys and lawyers and individuals that like to ask tough questions, you know, to the accused sitting there with the prosecution coming and asking all of those tough questions. Were you there the night of the murder, kind of stuff. So ask more questions is something that's part of this faculty's culture. Am I right, Dr. Tibbers? So let me just open it up for questions. We'll just take a few minutes. I want to be sensitive to time, but if I could just ask for a few questions or comments about Here for Good, about Here for Good Plus, about the QS process, about the laureate organization. What does 3.0 mean? This concept of evolving to an organization that's balanced, that's looking at all of the stakeholders and so forth and so on. Would like to invite you to ask any questions you might have. I'm getting a question here.
So now since you're fully aware about the programs and then courses, the student standard in the UPS,
Yeah.
you have shown 5 ratings, star 1 to 5 star. What is your evaluation about the UPS right now?
Wow, putting me on the spot. So the question was, also just for the audience that's listening in virtually, was on the QS rating system, 1 star to 5 star, what's my opinion of where UPS is today? But I don't know. I actually don't know. I think university has a lot of good foundation, really good foundation. The university is strong in employability, strong in outcomes, has great faculty, great infrastructure, good relations with the government. There's many positives here. I don't know the methodology well enough, Dr. Tabris, to comment. I would say that I think we can hope and aspire to perhaps start as a 3-star, you know, maybe 2 going to 3 or 3, which is a very good score. Some of the top universities in the world are 3 stars, right? And remember, 99% of the universities in the world, I should clarify this, are not even on the top 3, top 4, right? So most universities in India, most universities in the world are, you know, 1 star or less. So to be a 2 or 3 star is actually phenomenal. And to go to 4 and, you know, beyond that is amazing. So my guess is somewhere between 2 and 3, probably closer to 3. But that's why we're going to have the Here for Good process to internally check ourselves, and then we'll have the external rating system with QS to externally check ourselves. But my aspiration is that we can be certainly in that range. Yeah, so good question. Yes, sir. And then we'll maybe get 1 or 2 questions from the virtual locations.
Sorry, your talk was excellent about the purpose and the meaning of laureate. That's fine. I have been in different parts of the world, I've worked in different parts of the world, including America, Europe, and here. Now, some societies are quick, some societies are slow, and sometimes some societies are emerging. I would think that India is emerging, even in terms of law. Now, considering this, you have a program, I understand, but I have seen some evaluation processes, at least in very large institutions, about 50,000 people, having a SMART program, which really means specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. I've seen this, and my bosses have applied this in order to have measurable goals every year. So would we think that in the laureate system, that you have all this, you have the external situation within the country, and you have something going which enables everyone in the chain of command to know where it's going?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So the question is, just to make sure everyone heard the question, is how do we cascade objectives so we have specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound, which is the acronym SMART. How do we ensure that we have very clear objectives and priorities, and then how do we cascade them down? I think that's a great question. That's one that I know that I've chatted with Randeep, our head of human resources, and Amal has had this conversation as well about how do we do that. Currently, I have objectives that are specific, measurable, achievable, I believe, realistic, hopefully, and time-bound definitely for this year. I just showed the 5 high-level priorities to keep it at a high level earlier about enrollment and, the focus on HBO and the focus on accreditations and talent and so forth. But my objectives are much more quantifiable in that sense for each of those areas. Certainly, I know that UPES carries that approach, and Dr. Sriari carries that approach, and I'm sure you carry that approach at some level at the university. What I'd like to invite us to consider is the following. I think to where you're going, how do we integrate these? Because there might be a series of objectives and an approach that Laureate has, and then a series of objectives and an approach to objective setting that exists at the university. One of the things we're starting to do is to try to blend those two. So just a very simple example, my objectives are set on a calendar basis, an annual calendar basis. So my objectives are from January to December. That's how my objectives are set, because that's how the laureate culture is set up. My understanding is for the faculty at the university, traditionally it's been set up from July to the following June. This is the academic calendar, so perhaps your objectives are set up at some level that way. So at a very simple level, we're going to have to figure out how do we merge these two. And there's some ideas and thoughts about maybe we take it every 6 months so that there's an alignment there. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out the solution. But at a more broader level, to answer your question, I'm talking about the application of it, but at a broader level, I agree with you that we need to set those kinds of smart objectives and then have those be available and articulated. So my hope would be, if I go back to that one slide on the 2015 priorities for a moment, if you look at those 5 objectives that would be mine and aligned with UPES, for example, those we can translate to objectives that are similar and aligned for the academic portion to how we might be able to align our objectives. So for example, enrollment objectives would maybe align more to the marketing area. And then the objectives are on academics and accreditations, and HBO might align, to the team members here. So I think there's a journey we have to go on. I think that process is already underway, Ashish and Randeep, so that we're able to do that. So I think it's a great question. Maybe at the next town hall meeting, I'm thinking Randeep and Ashish, we could perhaps just touch on this topic of how do we take this last slide here about 2015 priorities, and how do we cascade them so we have smart objectives that are attached to each of these priorities. So thank you for the question. Good. Let me just invite the team that's connected digitally, if you don't mind switching back to the videos for a moment. Thanks. Does the team in Delhi at the Okla office have any questions or comments? And for that matter, I'll invite the team in Ahmedabad and in Bombay. Questions or comments? Maybe I'll turn this way to the team. I'm looking at you on the screen here, but I can see you here as well. Whenever I'm in the Okla office, they have a lot of things to discuss, so let's see if they can carry that tradition virtually. I will be in the Okla office with Utpal on Thursday, so we can catch up with the team more in live. So I was just there a couple of weeks ago for the Board of Governors meeting, and looking forward to catching up. Any comments from the Bombay office? Or from our colleagues in Ahmedabad? My parents are from Ahmedabad, so I'm expecting something from the Gujaratis. Or from the Ahmedabad presence. Yes, please, go ahead. Hi.
Yeah, I'm from Bombay office, Pankaj Roy Gupta.
Hi.
Mr. Sevak, it is a wonderful talk that you shared with all of us. I just wanted to ask one very simple question. The 2015 priorities that you have highlighted, student outcomes, then HBO, and the accreditations. I would like to know that how we are planning to utilize this with the help of the digital framework. In various universities across the globe, they have started a concept called data-driven university. DDU. Is there any plan for us to initiate some projects which are related with to develop a data-driven university?
Great question. Thank you. Is that Pankaj? Thank you for the question. Thank you for the question from the Bombay office. The question for the audience and for those digitally, just to make sure you're able to connect, was what are our plans around the evolution of our digital component and this concept of a data-driven university? How are we thinking of our university? One aspect of it is that I believe you've got already a foundation. There is so much that's already been automated at the university. We've got SAP here. We've got a foundation in CRM through Microsoft. We've got our scheduling, timetabling already automated. We're coming out with Blackboard, which is the learning management system that will be replacing Moodle, and a bunch of other ways that we've already got technology that is serving as a foundation. You need the technology because you need the activities or the data elements to be actually in a system so that we can then build the data-driven type of approach to our institution. Laureate, and I know UPS, has a data-driven orientation. We're very specific on metrics, as the previous question suggested about SMART objectives, and we're there. I don't know if we would get to the place of calling ourselves a data-driven university, but I believe culturally have a huge way of thinking that's already started or that we can continue, of thinking about how to apply data to help inform our decision making. So to answer your question, I believe we've got a foundation of technology that's there. I believe we already have a culture of data. Perhaps it's just putting the two together. It's having more analytics tools and capabilities. It's asking more questions, right, which then elicits the data that needs to happen. And it's thinking a little bit about how do we actually ask the strategic question so that we can go get the data relevant to that. What should the programs be? What should the student experience be? One of the things about Laureate's culture is when you're having a meeting or you're having a discussion, if you don't know, it's okay to say I don't know. If you're saying, hey, here's a question, my point of view is this, or my opinion is this, that's okay also. But when you're making a decision, not just a discussion, but a decision, when possible, let's get the data. So there's a cultural component of that I think, to your point, how do we take that to the next level? I'd invite us to consider that. I think one of the things this HBO thing will do is that we're going to start now tracking the data of student activity and performance digitally in a way that's going to allow us to really understand how truly students are performing in a data perspective. It won't just be my feeling as the teacher or my perception just talking to a student in the hallway. It's going to be based on a whole series of data. So the future of the university is going to be, I think, continue to have a strong technology foundation. We want to invest more in technology, just like we're investing in infrastructure like the Kendoli campus. We want to continue to invest more. There's a lot more systems coming online. I feel like I talk to Ashish almost every day, our head of IT here, with UPS roots. So there's continuing to be that focus on technology and data. So thank you very much for the question. It's a good question, and I think it's a very important question about continuing to have that data-driven culture as we move forward. So let me do this. In the interest of time, I'm going to wrap up here. I'm going to be at the Ookla campus, the Ookla office, which may one day be a campus, I don't know, but the Ookla office, so we can catch up with colleagues there. In fact, I'm there on Thursday. Yeah, so I'll be there at the office on Thursday, so look forward to seeing our colleagues there as well. I was, in fact, in that very conference room just 2 weeks ago. Let me wrap up the discussion here by just sharing, as I said earlier, that the aspiration that Laureate has, the aspiration is that each and every one of us as employees and as members of the Laureate community can really see our own purpose as part of a broader organization, or as Doug Becker said, as part of a broader movement, that we're really here for good, that there's a sense of stability, a sense of permanence to what we're trying to do, or a sense of continuity, and at the same time there's this sense of purpose, that the sense that we are here for a higher purpose and that we're aspiring to transform education in a big way, in a big and powerful and personal way for our students. So this concept of here for good as being about permanence, but being here about purpose is really the key message of the day, and that there's multiple elements to that includes this Here for Good roadmap to continue to strengthen our academic standards and positioning. It includes a lot of the priorities that we talked about around technology, around hybrid learning, around continuing the effort on accreditations and talent development. So there's a lot of initiatives here. I'm continuing to work very closely with UPES, with Dr. Shriyari, with Dr. Chopra, the Laureate team that's here today. I just wanted to take a moment to identify. We've got our CFO, Yudi, here today. For Laureate India, we have Randeep, who runs our HR, Human Resources here. Ashish, of course, that many of you know, runs IT. And we have, of course, Sachin, that has kind of a dual life, the finance guy for UPES and the finance guy, working also and partnering with Yudi to help support a bunch of initiatives across the Laureate India team. So with that, and clearly there's many other key leaders here as well. I see Amal here, I see Brigadier Sharma here. here as well. So with that, I just want to close by highlighting that this is really an exciting journey for me. I'm personally, as I mentioned earlier, have my roots from here in India. My parents are originally from Ahmedabad. My mom grew up in Delhi. My dad grew up in Bombay, so I feel connected virtually to the virtual team that's represented here. I've been to Dehradun many times, even before Laureate, with my parents to Rishikesh and Haridwar and all of that. So I know a little bit of this area, so I feel in some way I'm reconnecting with my family, with my ancestry, and so forth. So I really feel proud to be part of the Laureate India team. I feel proud to be connected with the university. This university has done such a wonderful job, and I hope and aspire with this collaboration between the university and Laureate that we can help take the university really to the next level and achieve all of the aspirations and dreams that we all have and what we have, which is to do best for our students. So with that, thank you very much for your time. Hopefully we'll have more opportunities like this to interact, to give you an update on Laureate, as well as to share a little bit and to hear some of your questions and thoughts as we move on this journey together. So thanks again for your time. Have a good rest of the day. Thanks. Thank you everybody for joining virtually. Thanks guys. Here we go. Great. Thanks, Fabrice. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
On behalf of the UPS team, I thank you, Mr. Amit Sevak. It was really very informative and very inspiring lecture. Now we are very comfortable to understand about the policies, programs of the laureate system. I can ensure on the behalf of the UPS that with the charismatic leadership of Amit Sevak and Mr. Utpal Ghosh, Dr. Sridhari, we will try to definitely move from 3-star to 5-star, and we will see we are here for good plus, not single plus, double plus. Thank you all of you.
I like the new thing.
He's already taken it.